Welcome, dear friends, to Lotus of Dharma, your peaceful corner on the internet where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Today, we explore a question that echoes in every heart at some point in life. Does everything happen for a reason? Some believe it's a comforting illusion, a way to soften the blows of life's randomness. Others, especially in the spiritual path, believe this is one of the most profound truths. That behind every joy, every pain, every unexpected turn there is meaning. There is purpose. Buddhism teaches us that nothing arises by accident. Every moment is the result of conditions, causes and effects intertwined in the web of karma and impermanence. Even suffering, even loss, can be our greatest teachers if we know how to listen. In this video, we'll reflect on real stories, Buddhist parables, and timeless principles that help us see life not as chaos, but as a sacred unfolding. And before we begin, if you find value in this kind of deep reflection, please like, share, and subscribe to Lotus of Dharma. Your support is the energy that keeps this channel alive and growing, just as your practice nurtures your inner peace. Now, take a deep breath, and let us begin this journey into the hidden wisdom of why things happen exactly as they do. The law of impermanence: everything changes. Understanding impermanence. Buddhism teaches that life is in a constant state of flux. Nothing remains the same: our emotions, careers, relationships, and even our very existence. This is the fundamental principle of anicca, or impermanence. Clinging to transient things inevitably leads to suffering. The doctrine of impermanence is deeply rooted in Buddhist philosophy and is one of the three marks of existence, dukkha, alongside suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. Anicca teaches that everything is subject to continuous change. Mountains erode, civilizations rise and fall, and even our thoughts and emotions are in perpetual motion. When we resist this natural law, we invite frustration and suffering. However, by acknowledging and embracing impermanence, we develop wisdom and learn to navigate life's uncertainties with grace and acceptance. Impermanence is also central to the concept of dependent origination, paticca samuppada, which explains that all phenomena arise and cease based on conditions. This means that no event or circumstance exists in isolation; rather, it is part of an interconnected web of causes and effects. Understanding this allows us to detach from rigid expectations and cultivate an adaptive mindset. We see this in the lives of many public figures. Take Elon Musk, for example, one of the most influential entrepreneurs of our time. Over the years, his business empire has risen and faced setbacks. Companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and Twitter have experienced dramatic changes, yet Musk continuously adapts. If he clung to past successes or failures, his progress would be hindered. Instead, he embraces impermanence and moves forward. Similarly, in history, great leaders like Napoleon Bonaparte saw the heights of power and the depths of exile. At one point, he was the ruler of much of Europe, yet impermanence caught up with him, and his empire crumbled. His story is a stark reminder that nothing is permanent, neither success nor failure. Buddhist story: the broken cup. A Zen master held a beautiful cup and said to his students, "To me, this cup is already broken. When I drink from it, I appreciate its beauty. When it falls and shatters, I do not grieve, because I understood from the beginning that its nature is to break." The same applies to relationships, wealth, and even our own identities. Think about Hollywood celebrities. Many rise to fame only to fade away in the ever-changing tides of public opinion. If they build their self-worth on temporary fame, suffering is inevitable. But those who understand impermanence, like Keanu Reeves, embrace change, and maintain a sense of inner peace regardless of external circumstances. By adopting the same perspective, we learn to embrace change rather than resist it, allowing us to live with greater peace and clarity. Life is like a river, ever flowing, never stagnant. Those who fight against the current find themselves exhausted and frustrated, while those who move with it experience harmony and ease. Impermanence is not something to fear, it is a fundamental truth that, when understood, brings liberation. Accepting that change is inevitable allows us to fully appreciate the present moment, knowing that everything we experience is fleeting. By doing so, we cultivate resilience and a deeper appreciation for life. The law of karma: you reap what you sow. The principle of cause and effect. Karma is often misunderstood as a mysterious or supernatural force that arbitrarily rewards or punishes people. In reality, it is a natural law of cause and effect, an unbreakable chain of consequences that stem directly from our choices. The principle is straightforward: our present reality is shaped by our past actions, and our future will be determined by what we do today. Imagine karma as a ripple effect. Every action, no matter how small, sends waves through the vast ocean of existence. A kind gesture, a moment of patience, or an act of integrity can create ripples that lead to profound, positive changes over time. Conversely, dishonesty, selfishness, and cruelty generate their own ripples, often returning to us in ways we least expect. Take, for instance, the life stories of influential figures. Warren Buffett didn't become one of the world's most successful investors by sheer luck. His journey was a result of decades of financial discipline, strategic decision-making, and an ethical approach to business. He consistently planted seeds of wisdom, patience, and long-term thinking, allowing him to reap the rewards of success and respect. On the contrary, history is filled with examples of individuals who pursued shortcuts through unethical means: corporate fraudsters, corrupt politicians, and dishonest leaders. Though they may have enjoyed temporary success, their actions eventually caught up with them, leading to their downfall. The same principle applies to everyday life. A person who cultivates a strong work ethic, continuously learns, and treats others with respect is bound to experience growth and fulfillment. But someone who engages in deception, blames others for their failures, or avoids personal responsibility will inevitably face challenges created by their own decisions. Karma is not about immediate gratification, it is about the accumulation of choices over time. It reminds us that we are not merely victims of circumstance but active participants in shaping our destiny. If we truly grasp this, we stop blaming fate and start taking ownership of our lives. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" we ask, "What can I do to change my trajectory?" This shift in mindset transforms how we approach relationships, careers, and personal growth. If you seek financial stability, you must develop good financial habits, invest wisely, and practice patience. If you desire meaningful relationships, you must cultivate kindness, understanding, and emotional intelligence. If you want happiness, you must create it through gratitude, self-awareness, and positive choices. The law of karma is a call to action. It urges us to consciously sow the seeds of the life we desire. While challenges and setbacks are inevitable, they do not define us, our response to them does. Life doesn't just happen to us, we are its architects. The question we should always ask ourselves is, what kind of future am I building with the seeds I'm planting today? By understanding karma as a law of accountability rather than a form of cosmic punishment, we empower ourselves to make better choices. Life may not always seem fair in the short term, but over time, the seeds we plant will inevitably grow. So, what are you planting today? Letting go to find peace. Attachment and suffering. Humans have a natural tendency to hold on to things, possessions, relationships, past experiences, believing that they are essential to our happiness. We chase permanence in a world that is inherently impermanent. When those things inevitably change, we experience suffering. The Buddhist perspective teaches that true peace comes not from grasping tightly but from allowing life to unfold naturally, without resistance. The concept of anicca, or impermanence, is a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy. Everything we know, our emotions, wealth, health, and even our own identities are in a state of continuous change. The more we resist this reality, the more suffering we invite into our lives. As the Dalai Lama once said, attachment is the origin, the root of suffering, hence it is the cause of suffering. Think about some of the most influential figures in history. Steve Jobs revolutionized technology and built one of the most valuable companies in the world. Yet, he was once ousted from Apple, the very company he founded. Instead of clinging to resentment, he let go, pursued new ventures like Pixar, and ultimately returned to Apple stronger than before. His ability to release attachment to his past position allowed him to innovate freely and leave a lasting legacy. Similarly, in sports, Michael Jordan's initial retirement from basketball after his father's passing shocked the world. Many believe he should have stayed in the game to maintain his dominance. But Jordan understood that sometimes, stepping away is necessary for growth. His temporary departure led him to baseball, a humbling experience that eventually reignited his passion for basketball. When he returned, he was more focused than ever, leading the Chicago Bulls to another 3 NBA championships. His ability to let go of his past self allowed him to evolve into something greater. Story: the raft across the river. Imagine a general who leads his army across a treacherous battlefield using a brilliant strategy. That strategy worked perfectly for the situation at hand, but what if he insists on using the same approach in every battle, regardless of the circumstances? His unwillingness to adapt could lead to disaster. In military history, leaders like Napoleon Bonaparte rose to greatness due to their ability to innovate, but his eventual downfall was partly due to his refusal to adjust his tactics to changing conditions. This is precisely the lesson illustrated in the Buddhist story of the raft. A man used a raft to cross a raging river. Upon reaching the other side, instead of leaving the raft behind, he carried it on his back, believing it would always be useful. The Buddha explained, the raft served its purpose, but carrying it now is a burden. The same applies to our lives. Relationships, beliefs, and even personal successes serve their purpose at a certain time. But holding on to them when they are no longer beneficial only weighs us down. How often do we cling to past relationships, outdated ambitions, or even grudges, thinking they still serve us? The wisdom lies in knowing when to hold on and when to let go. The Taoist principle of Wu Wei, meaning effortless action, aligns with this idea. It teaches that we should flow with the natural rhythms of life rather than resisting them. Like a river that moves around obstacles instead of forcing through them, letting go allows us to move forward without unnecessary struggle. Letting go is a strength. Letting go is often mistaken for weakness, but in reality, it requires immense strength. Consider Jeff Bezos, who left a high-paying job on Wall Street to start Amazon. He let go of security and comfort to pursue a vision that, at the time, seemed risky. Now, Amazon is one of the most powerful companies in the world. His willingness to release attachment to short-term stability allowed him to build something far greater. The same principle applies to personal relationships. Many people stay in toxic relationships out of fear of loneliness, fear of change, or fear of the unknown. But true strength is found in walking away from what no longer serves us. This is echoed in the words of Buddha, "You only lose what you cling to." In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus taught that freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. This wisdom is deeply aligned with Buddhist thought. By accepting impermanence and releasing attachments to things beyond our control, we reclaim our inner peace and personal power. In the same way, We must examine our lives and ask, what are we holding on to that is preventing us from moving forward? Whether it's fear of failure, resentment, or outdated goals, learning to release what no longer serves us is the key to true freedom. When we embrace the art of letting go, we find that life becomes lighter, clearer, and infinitely more fulfilling. Adversity as a teacher. Learning from hardship. Difficulties are not punishments, they are lessons designed to help us grow. Viewing challenges through this lens allows us to gain strength and wisdom from our struggles. The greatest leaders, innovators, and thinkers in history have faced immense adversity, yet it was through those challenges that they found their true potential. Buddhist perspective, the nature of suffering, dukkha. In Buddhism, adversity is understood through the concept of dukkha, which refers to suffering, dissatisfaction, and the struggles inherent in life. The Buddha taught that suffering is an inevitable part of existence, but it is also a teacher. By understanding suffering, we learn patience, resilience, and wisdom. Instead of resisting hardships, Buddhism encourages us to embrace them as opportunities for spiritual growth. Take Elon Musk, for example. Before Tesla and SpaceX became household names, he faced repeated failures. SpaceX's first 3 rocket launches ended in disaster, nearly bankrupting the company. Tesla faced production issues that almost led to its collapse. But instead of giving up, Musk used each failure as a stepping stone, refining his approach until he found success. His struggles didn't break him, they made him. In the military world, Ulysses S. Grant serves as a powerful example. Before becoming the Union general who led the North to victory in the Civil War, Grant faced failure after failure. He struggled in business, was forced to resign from the army due to rumors of alcoholism, and worked odd jobs just to survive. But when the war broke out, he rose to the occasion, proving his resilience. His hardships shaped him into a leader capable of enduring and overcoming immense challenges. Story: The Butterfly and the Struggle. A boy once saw a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. Wanting to help, he gently cut the cocoon open. The butterfly emerged, but its wings were too weak to fly. Unbeknownst to the boy, the struggle to break free was essential for strengthening the butterfly's wings. By eliminating that struggle, he had unintentionally crippled it. Buddhist perspective, the Noble Eightfold Path and overcoming adversity. The Noble Eightfold Path teaches that the way to liberation from suffering involves right understanding, right effort, and right perseverance. Hardships are not meant to be avoided but understood and transcended. This story reflects the reality of human growth. Adversity forces us to develop the mental and emotional muscles necessary to face life's challenges. Without struggle, we remain fragile, unable to withstand the hardships that inevitably come our way. Consider Oprah Winfrey, who was fired from her first television job and told she was unfit for TV. Instead of letting that setback define her, she transformed it into motivation, building one of the most influential media empires in history. Her early struggles were not obstacles, they were catalysts for greatness. Similarly, Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. He didn't quit. Instead, he used that rejection to fuel his legendary work ethic. Through relentless practice and sheer determination, he turned failure into a stepping stone to success. Buddhist perspective, impermanence, anicca, and the power of endurance. Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent, anicca. Our struggles, no matter how painful, will not last forever. Just as a storm passes and the sun eventually shines again, our hardships are temporary. This perspective helps us endure difficulties with greater patience and strength. Every hardship carries within it a lesson. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is how they respond to adversity. Do they let it defeat them, or do they use it as fuel to grow stronger? The choice is always ours. Living in the present, mindfulness. Why mindfulness matters. In a world where distractions are everywhere, from endless social media scrolling to relentless work demands, it's easy to forget the only moment that truly exists, the present. Mindfulness is not just a trendy wellness term, it's a practice that can fundamentally transform how we experience life. It's about fully engaging with the now, rather than being lost in thoughts of the past or anxieties about the future. Think about some of the most successful people in the world: athletes, entrepreneurs, and even military leaders. Tom Brady, for example, attributes much of his success to his ability to stay in the moment on the field. When the pressure is high and millions are watching, he doesn't let past mistakes or future worries cloud his judgment. He focuses entirely on the next play. The same principle applies to great generals in history. Take Napoleon Bonaparte. His ability to remain acutely present during battle, adapting in real time, was one of his greatest strengths. These individuals didn't let their minds drift to regret or fear, they stayed engaged with what was happening right in front of them. Story: the hot cup of tea. A Zen master once handed his disciple a steaming cup of tea. As the student took it, the master said, "Feel the warmth in your hands. Inhale the aroma. Notice the steam rising." This is mindfulness, being fully present in the now. This simple lesson carries profound wisdom. How often do we rush through our days without truly experiencing them? We drink coffee while answering emails, eat lunch while scrolling through news, and walk while thinking about what we need to do next. In doing so, we miss the richness of life's small moments, the ones that, when stacked together, define our existence. Practical ways to cultivate mindfulness. The power of breathing. Navy SEALs use a technique called box breathing to stay calm and present in high-stress situations. This involves inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding again. This simple practice can be used by anyone to regain focus. Mindful observation. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of all time, often speaks about his ability to remain deeply focused and present. His strategy? Paying close attention to what others overlook. Mindful observation allows us to engage with life more deeply and make better decisions. Single tasking over multitasking. Elon Musk, despite managing multiple billion-dollar companies, is known for his laser-like focus. He practices time blocking, dedicating full attention to one task at a time. Multitasking scatters our awareness, while mindfulness sharpens it. Daily check-ins. Legendary basketball coach Phil Jackson, who led Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant to championships, integrated mindfulness into his coaching. His teams practiced meditation to stay focused on the game, not past losses or future anxieties. Taking a few moments each day to check in with yourself, asking, "What am I feeling right now? What am I experiencing in this moment?" can help cultivate the same clarity. Mindfulness as a competitive advantage. Mindfulness is more than just a method for stress reduction, it's a strategic tool that enhances performance, decision-making, and overall well-being. Business leaders like Jeff Bezos attribute their success to clear, present-minded thinking, making calculated decisions without being clouded by past failures or future anxieties. In high-stakes environments, mindfulness fosters resilience and focus, whether you're leading a company, managing a crisis, or simply seeking to deepen your relationships. By cultivating presence, individuals can sharpen their cognitive function, improve emotional intelligence, and ultimately unlock greater success in both personal and professional spheres. By training our minds to fully engage with the present, we cultivate a profound sense of clarity, emotional balance, and peak performance. Studies from neuroscience suggest that individuals who practice mindfulness regularly experience reduced stress levels, improved cognitive flexibility, and enhanced memory retention. In a world where digital distractions, endless notifications, and information overload constantly compete for our attention, the ability to remain fully present is not just a personal skill, it's a professional and competitive advantage. Whether it's a CEO making high-stakes decisions, an athlete performing under intense pressure, or a parent striving to be fully engaged with their child, the power of mindfulness enables individuals to navigate life with greater intention and fulfillment. Transforming the mind, from suffering to enlightenment. The power of perception. Happiness isn't about what happens to us, it's about how we interpret and respond to those events. Some of the most successful and resilient figures in history have faced immense challenges, yet they emerged stronger because of how they perceived their struggles. Take Oprah Winfrey, for example. She endured a traumatic childhood filled with poverty and hardship. Instead of letting her past define her, she used her experiences as fuel for growth, developing deep empathy and a relentless drive that ultimately turned her into a global icon. She transformed her pain into purpose, proving that our mindset can dictate the course of our lives. Similarly, consider Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, subjected to brutal conditions. But rather than allowing bitterness to consume him, he used his time to cultivate wisdom and patience. When he was finally released, he chose reconciliation over revenge, guiding South Africa through one of the most remarkable transitions in history. His mind was not confined by his prison walls, it was free because he chose to see beyond his suffering. Shifting the narrative, turning pain into wisdom. History is full of figures who reframed their hardships into stepping stones. Take Ulysses S. Grant, a man who faced numerous failures before leading the Union Army to victory in the Civil War. Before his military success, he struggled with financial ruin and personal setbacks. But instead of succumbing to despair, he saw each failure as a lesson that made him more strategic and resilient. His story illustrates how our response to adversity shapes our destiny more than the adversity itself. Even in modern times, athletes like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant exemplify the power of perception. Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, and Bryant had an infamous first season filled with air balls. Yet, they didn't internalize failure as defeat. They saw it as a challenge to improve, refining their skills and mental strength until they became legends. The glass of water and sand, the lesson of stillness. A troubled man once approached a wise monk, overwhelmed by stress and confusion. The monk handed him a glass of water filled with sand and said, "Shake it." The man did, and the water turned murky. Then, the monk told him, "Now, let it sit." Slowly, the sand settled, and the water became clear. The monk explained, "Your mind is like this glass of water. When you are overwhelmed with emotions and chaos, everything seems unclear. But if you allow yourself to be still, to let thoughts settle, clarity emerges." This is the core of mental transformation, learning to let go of mental noise and finding clarity in stillness. Meditation, deep reflection, and mindful breathing are tools that help us cultivate this inner peace. Steve Jobs, known for his passion for Zen Buddhism, often credited meditation for his creativity and focus. He understood that a still mind is a powerful mind. Practical ways to transform your mindset. Reframe challenges as opportunities. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, view them as lessons for growth. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Even a few minutes a day can help clear the mental clutter. Surround yourself with resilience. Learn from people who have mastered the art of transforming adversity into wisdom. Control your internal dialogue. The stories you tell yourself shape your reality. Embrace patience. Just like the water in the glass, clarity takes time. True transformation starts from within. It's not about eliminating hardship, it's about learning to navigate it with wisdom and grace. The greatest minds in history weren't immune to suffering, they simply mastered the art of perceiving it differently. So, what if the heartbreak, the failure, the silence from someone you love wasn't a punishment, but a doorway? What if the pain you once cursed was the very path that led you to awakening? The Buddha taught, when this exists, that comes to be, with the arising of this, that arises. Nothing in this life is random. Every moment is connected. Every experience is a thread in the great tapestry of your becoming. Whether we call it karma, divine timing, or simply life unfolding, the lesson remains the same. Trust the process. Honor the journey. Learn from the storms, and bow to the sun when it shines again. If today's reflection has touched your heart, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. Have you ever faced something that didn't make sense at the time, but now, looking back, you see its hidden purpose? Your story might be the light someone else needs today. And if this video brought peace to your heart, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to Lotus of Dharma. Every gesture you make keeps this wisdom alive, and helps it reach others who are still searching. Until our next journey together, may you walk with clarity, accept with grace, and trust that everything truly happens for a reason.